Hey guys, welcome you all in Technology to the Point. Today we will talk about containers. What we will cover in this video, we will talk little bit about history before the containers came and the limitation with the traditional approaches what we had, and then we will go through the containers and we will try to understand what exactly are these. Then we will understand how it is different than the traditional approaches and what are the benefits we have with the containers. If we talk about history, you must know this thing that we used to run our application on physical infrastructure, right? And also we prefer to run one application on one server. So what exactly happens at that time? Suppose our company wanted to launch new application. What is the way for that one? Once we had all the plan and the application is also developed, but to host that application we required some server, hardware server, right? And to get the server, what is the way? We just get the budget allocated for that one, then get the approval, then once the server come, we configure that server, build that, then we will be able to host that application. So we lose some time there, right? Also, if you think in little bit more further, then you understand. Suppose our application required one CPU and 2 GB of RAM to run that, uh, to run, uh, to function properly. So, do you think that we always go with the same configuration for the server side as well? No, we always take the buffer because we always think about the future. Might be the usage or application will increase, and then we require uh, big server. So we always prefer to go with the higher one. But to run that particular application, we don't require that much of resources. We just think about the future and we spend money on that thing. So, what are the limitation we had with that approach? It's slow. There is slow deployment time as we it requires budget allocation, configuration, and other things, right? And there is huge cost involved when we go with the physical server. So what I think it is a wastage of resources. And suppose if our applications usage increased and we want to scale our server, means right now our server is running with 4 CPU and 16 GB of RAM, then we want to add more resources in that. Do you think it is very easy in that one? No, we need to bring the again we need to get the approval, then we need to purchase, then we need a downtime, then we will add that particular com or resource, then we will need to host that application again. And also, was very difficult to migrate our application from one server to others, and sometimes we have the vendor lock-in as well. So these are the limitations we had with the physical infrastructure, or we can say physical server. I hope it is clear with you. To eradicate this problem, we come across virtualization. What exactly it do? It it abstract this particular hardware and we can divide into small machines. So what we can do, suppose right now we purchase big hardware server or physical server, then we can split it in virtual machine and then we run uh, application on those virtual machines. So what we require for that one? We require physical hardware, then the host operating system on this physical box, then we will uh, install the hypervisor, then we will create our virtual machine and then we will able to run the application. Here we solve one problem. Uh, we always go with the big host, right? So suppose right now one application is running in our organization. If we want to run one more application, then we no need to go with the budget allocation and prepare the our server. We just need to create one more VM and run our application. In case we don't want to continue with that application, we are free to free the resources, right? And we can use that particular host or for the other applications. So in comparison, we are pooling the resources, right? So there is better resource pooling. If we talk about the cost, it in comparison to physical server, it is very low cost in virtual machine because it is reusable and we can expand it. We no need to get the budget again and again, and we are saving some time also. And if we talk about the scaling part, yes, it is easy to scale. Right now, suppose our server is running with 2 CPU, 4 GB of RAM. If we want to increase with the 4 CPU or 16 GB of RAM, we are free to use it until and unless we have the resources available on our physical box. If we talk about the migration, yes, virtualization provide the live migration as well, while it will not impact your application. So it's easy than the physical machine. Then we have the virtual machine in the cloud where we are able to scale in or scale out rapidly, and we just need to pay as per use model, right? But there is always a but, and what are those? We still have some limitation with the application. Sorry, the physical server. What are those? Each virtual machine still requires CPU allocation, RAM storage, and the entire guest operating system. For that operating system, we require licensing as well, right? So what we are doing for running one application, we are using those resources separately. So we are splitting this particular hardware. Suppose we have the server with 4 CPU and 16 GB RAM. We are dividing into four virtual machines, one CPU and 4 GB of RAM. Then what will happen? Still, suppose our application is using only half of that resources. That's why we are creating a virtual machine. We always think about the future and we still require that the usage of application will not go beyond 70% or 80% or 90%, right? It's up to our recommend usage, or we can say what our policy says. It is different for every company or standards, right? So once we go through this one, do you think we are still using our resources very efficiently? I'll say no. Let me tell you why. Because here we are involving additional OS cost, means the licensing part, so the cost is involved, and for each one we are taking some buffer resources, right? So those resources are not able to use for other purpose. So the thing is, also in some cases, application portability the is not guaranteed here because sometimes it is dependent on the host application, host server also. Now let's talk about container. We understood what is the drawback when we run our application on physical server. What are the limitations with the virtual machines? Now let's talk about the containers. What exactly are these? Containers is a technology to run one or more than one process on an independent and isolated environment. What exactly it is? So when we run our application in any container, suppose these are the container, right? You can see blue, red, and purple. When we run these application, inside the containers, the other containers will not know that some other containers is running on the same host. So it is providing you the isolated environment, and if you want to maintain one particular container, you don't need to touch the others. Second thing, it is a standard package of software and its dependency. The means the containers will have its own application and the required dependent files. So it can run fully without any support. So it will run independently. The best part of it, it uses the same OS kernel. That means we don't require additional license for to run these applications inside the containers. So we are definitely saving the time. Also, when we are using the resources from the host application for host server, then you might have got this thing that the containers will use the resources which is required for the application. It will not use the extra resources there. So the thing is we can run more containers on the same host with the single licensing. So, what exactly this Docker is? We will talk about Docker in details, but for the timing, it is a container runtime which actually manages the life cycle of the containers. So, these containers runs on all major Linux and Windows servers. What are the benefits we have with the containers? As you know, these are the lightweighted and directly running on the host operating system. So we have it provides the speed to run the application as no OS need to boot. If we talk about the portable, yes, they are less dependent than the virtual machines. Means it can move between the hardware infrastructure very easily. If we talk about the efficiency, due to less operating system overhead, we can use our infrastructure very efficiently. So we can run multiple containers on the same server. That is the best use of the hardware I can say so far. Let's talk about the how it is different than the virtual machine. If we talk about the virtual machine, these are the hardware level abstraction. Means it split the hardware and we create the virtual machine out of that. Then our application uses that thing, that particular resources, and we can't use more resources if required. The reason is the resources which is allocated to the virtual machine application will able to use only that particular resources. In if we talk about the containers, see, sometimes if it feels this container want to use more resources, it is free to use it because there is no dividation on the hardware level. But the thing is, the resources should be available on the operating system side. Second thing, it is using directly, it is running directly on the host operating system. It is very quick and very quick to launch and run the applications. When we talk about the container, it is the OS level abstraction. It means it shares the same OS. So the thing is, whatever we used in our containers, like so they are hardware wise, if we talk about, they are independent, but they still share the same operating system. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you like the content. If you like, then click on like button. That will encourage me to prepare more videos for you in this series, and we will see the videos on Docker and Kubernetes in coming weeks. Thank you for watching once again.